Why
the
does
thing.
God have an angel of death?
Good question.
Welcome back to the Good Book Club, and yes, we are in a new location. This is Timu's eating room. What do you call it? Dining room.
Dining
Here we go.
room.
Dining room. That's the words I'm looking for, and we are diving into a very short Exodus 11. 10 verses.
It's very short.
It might be a very short episode.
Are we going to try to keep 1 minute per verse?
Really?
No, I'm just challenging you now. Are we going to try?
I don't know. I don't
You're
know.
already past that.
I do not know. But this is actually, it says in my Bible, the plague on the firstborn. But it's the threat of this is the plague that's to come.
To come. Okay.
Yeah. Because it only takes place in chapter 12. So this
it's
is
still a while. So it's like preparing us for the big loss.
yes, because these both two chapters follow closely behind each other in reality. But chapter 11, it starts very serious if you think about it, where God says, I'll bring one more plague upon Egypt, and after that, Pharaoh will finally let you go.
God knows, and yet he still proceeds. It's interesting that God knows and still proceeds, and not use a different method, not putting that plague one plague earlier.
But I think it makes sense
It's a process.
that he ends with this.
Yeah, it's a process that clarifies everything. It's a journey. Because if he starts with the angel of death, we're actually quite ahead.
That's chapter 12, dude.
Yeah, but if he started with that at the first plague, then it wouldn't have been the same.
It would not have been, no.
So it's like building up. He's orchestrating like not a choir, but an orchestra, like an actual orchestra.
Orchestra of chaos.
Yeah, but it's
Destruction.
yeah, but it's constructive chaos. Because he knows what he's doing.
He definitely knows what he's doing.
All right. Okay. Let's get back to Exodus.
Interesting.
To the Exodus that we're supposed to do now.
Interesting about verse 2. It says that tell the people and men that they are to ask for the neighbors for articles of silver and gold. And well, this is it really links well to chapter 12 because they will give them silver and gold. And even though they plundered the Egyptians, God gave the Israelites favor in the Egyptians' eyes by giving them gold and clothing.
Yeah.
When they left, because usually when a slave went away, the slave owner would give them something to start their journey. But it's still fascinating that after all 10 plagues, they still gave them something.
That also trying to stay true to their culture, I think, because that is what they do. That's what they've always done. So that's a way for them to still honor themselves or their culture, but also the other person, like you are being let go. It's not religion is rules, while culture is something that's ingrained into what the people do by default because they want to, or that's what they believe, but it's not a way to get to God or anything like that. That's the difference between culture and religion, I would say.
And it's just so cool that even after all that, God still gives them favor. And then Moses makes the statement of what the plague is going to be in verse 4, that in midnight God will go through Egypt and every firstborn will die. Pharaoh sits on a throne, the firstborn of the female slave who is at her handmill, and the firstborn of the cattle. There will be loud wailing throughout Egypt, worse than there ever has been or ever will be again. And among the Israelites there won't even be a dog that barks.
That's hectic.
He's basically saying there will not be a worse night in Egypt ever again.
Yeah.
This is the worst night they will ever experience.
Total darkness.
Well, that was the previous plague.
That was the previous plague.
But this isn't another darkness on its own. That does make sense what you're saying.
Lights out for some people.
True, and if you think about it, for the Egyptians, death on the firstborn meant judgment on the entire nation.
Yeah, that's hectic. And the entire nation is quite a big nation.
Because at that point they were probably they were one of the strongest ones in the ancient world back then.
And then it's like let's make the numbers smaller. Let's humble you.
God really humiliated them. He brought them down from hundreds of years of we have slaves for hundreds of years to humiliating them.
All the way from Joseph's hard work just taken away just like that.
That's very true, because
it shows that God does have a plan, and then if you don't listen to him, it's like following God's will. If you're not following his will, you're basically just taking a longer route to get there at the final destination that he wants you to be. That's actually much more applicable to when they get the other side of the sea,
right.
if you think about that.
Oh,
but
that's
that's for later. That's for later.
very true. You're talking about the other thing.
Yeah, the other thing.
Okay.
The thing of the thing with the other thing.
The thing.
Yeah, we'll talk about the other thing of that thing later at that thing.
Okay, but let's get back to this thing right here. I wanted to say something about this. Oh, right. Pharaoh was seen as a god. So the fact that his son died was technically the death of the god who was to be, if you think about it. Or it was also the king who was to be died that evening. And the Prince of Egypt film, you've obviously seen it. They portray the angel of death or the destroyer as this
light beam.
How did they portray it? It was like this wind thing, but it's so cold and death.
It's a lifeless cloud.
A lifeless cloud that it went through like this to go throughout all Egypt. And in the Action Bible, we'll put a picture up. It looks like this dark figure levitating, and it has this cloak, but it's rugged and grey.
The Grim Reaper, basically.
It almost looks like the Grim Reaper. And we don't know what exactly the Angel of Death looks like.
We'll never know until you see it.
I don't want to see the Angel of Death.
Yeah.
Why does God have an Angel of Death?
Good question. Why does God have an Angel of Death? Because I did have the question of, is it God that does not kill and the Angel of Death, but God is the one sending it. So therefore God do kill because he is God.
Because God has power over life and death. And he can even resurrect people if he wants to.
Yeah, he has power of over life and death. And hallo.
That's his dogs.
Hallo jij natuurlijk vis.
God has power over life and death. And it sounds strange that he has an angel of death, but in the end, this will sound weird, but God can do whatever he wants.
He can do whatever he wants, and it's something that we can't really... We can make up reasons and everything, but we'll never know the true answer because we are not God. We don't understand godly things because we are from the earth. We're made on earth. And yeah, therefore our minds are very capped at a certain level because we tend to limit ourselves very quickly.
We will never fully understand God. And we won't have all the answers with our capabilities of thinking. God won't always make sense to us, but he did this because Egypt was especially against his chosen people. And it's interesting because Moses says that all these officials of yours will come to me, bowing down before me and saying, "Go, and all the people who follow you. After that I will leave." Then Moses, hot with anger, left Pharaoh. So this was a really intense engagement.
Yes.
And the Lord said to Moses, "Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you, so that my wonders may be multiplied." Moses and Aaron performed these wonders before Pharaoh, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. So even after that really intense conversation, Pharaoh still didn't let them go, and this was just before chapter 12.
Yeah, and here is a question that I actually wrote down. Is choosing God or Jesus selfish when the cost is everything around you? I think that might be more applicable in the next episode.
Really?
Because we're doing the angel of death.
Okay.
After that, I think it might tie in as we try to reason with that question, see what conclusion we get to.
Because I do have an answer to that question.
Do you have?
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the next episode, guys. Because that's
see
going to
you
be
then.
interesting.